Stop looking at her like she is nothing. Nia's voice cut through the bus stop line, sharp and brave, and for a second the whole street seemed to pause. People turned, caught off guard that a child said what their hearts had been avoiding. The homeless woman by the bench lifted her head slowly, like she had forgotten what it felt like to be seen. The stop sat under a gray sky that smelled of rain and exhaust. The glass buildings rose behind it, cold and tall, while the sidewalk below was cracked and damp. Commuters stood close together in coats and scarves, staring at phones, shifting their weight with quiet impatience. Near the bench, the woman sat on flattened cardboard, shoulders hunched against the wind. Her coat was thin, her shoes were worn, and her hands wrapped around a paper cup that held only a few coins. She did not call out. She did not wave. She just held the cup the way a person holds hope when hope is small. Andre Thompson stood a few steps back with his daughter. Andre was broad-shouldered and tired in the honest way working people get tired. His jacket carried paint stains from the job site. His face carried grief he never spoke loudly about. 3 years ago, his wife died after a sudden illness, and the world had shifted under his feet without warning. Since then, he learned how to do everything alone: school mornings, dinner nights, hair days, and quiet talks when his daughter's sadness rose like tide. He tried to keep her soft in a city that often rewarded hard hearts. Nia was 7. Bright-eyed, small, with 2 puff ponytails and a yellow raincoat that made her look like a little sun under a cloudy sky. She held Andre's hand and looked around, the way kids do when they still believe the world is worth studying. She had noticed the woman right away. She saw people step around her like cold was catching. She saw a man drop coins into the cup without lifting his eyes. She saw 2 teens whisper and laugh, then glance away when their laughter felt ugly under her stare. Nia did not understand why adults got quiet when kindness was needed. The bus was late. The wind grew colder. The homeless woman tucked her chin deeper into her scarf. Her cup rattled faintly when a coin fell in. Not a thank you, not a word, just a sound of distance. Nia felt something tighten in her chest, like the air was pressing against her ribs. She tugged Andre's hand and asked why the lady was sitting on the ground. Andre crouched beside her, voice low and careful. She doesn't have a home right now, baby. Sometimes life gets hard. Nia stared at the woman's thin shoes and trembling hands. But she is freezing. Andre felt the same ache, deep and steady. I know. He was about to say more about being careful, about not rushing into strangers, about how the world can be unsafe, even when your heart is right. But Nia had already slipped her hand from his and walked forward. Andre stood taller, alert. At once, fear not of the woman, but of everything around them. He moved closer, ready to step in if he had to. Yet Nia didn't run. She didn't shout. She knelt on the damp concrete right in front of the woman like it was the most normal thing. In the world, I think you need a hug. Can I hug you? Her voice was gentle, but it carried weight because it was true. The bus stop went quiet in a different way. Not silence that ignores, a silence that listens. The woman blinked as if waking. Her eyes were tired, but not empty. A life still lived behind them, pressed down by years that hurt. She looked at Nia's face, then at the small arms opening toward her. Then at Andre, hovering close, steady and watchful. You don't have to do that, sweetheart, the woman whispered. Nia nodded once. I want to. The woman hesitated, not because she didn't want comfort, but because she didn't remember the rules anymore. When was someone last kind to her without asking for something back? Her arms opened slowly, unsure, like a door that hadn't moved in a long time. Nia leaned in and wrapped her arms around her shoulders. Soft but sure. The woman's body stiffened for a breath, then melted. She closed her eyes. Her chin rested on Nia's raincoat. A shaky sound left her chest that wasn't quite crying and wasn't quite laughing. It was what happens when a person has been cold for too long and suddenly feels warmth. Andre watched with his throat tight. He didn't speak. He let his daughter's kindness be the loudest thing in the moment. Around them, strangers shifted. A mother near the pole covered her mouth. A man with earbuds lowered them slowly, staring. One of the teens who had laughed earlier looked down, ashamed. The city didn't change, but one corner of it remembered what being human felt like. When Naya pulled back, her eyes searched the woman's face like she wanted to understand her story. "What is your name?" The woman swallowed. "Ruth," she said. "The name is Ruth." Nia smiled like she had found a friend. "Hi, Ruth. I'm Nia. That's my daddy, Andre." Ruth looked up at Andre with caution that came from old pain. Andre met her eyes with respect, not pity. He reached into his bag and pulled out a spare sandwich he had packed for Naya. He offered it without drama, hand steady, voice low. "Please eat. You don't have to explain anything." Ruth's hand shook as she took it. "Thank you," she breathed, and the word sounded like something she hadn't used in a while. Andre asked if she had somewhere safe to sleep. Ruth lowered her eyes and said the shelter was full most nights. Her voice was small, not begging, just honest. Andre nodded. Didn't act shocked. He didn't lecture. He pulled out his phone and called a local outreach center he knew from his church. He gave their location, said a woman needed a warm place tonight, and waited while Nia stayed by Ruth's side like a little guard of kindness while he was on the call. Nia took off her yellow raincoat and draped it over Ruth's shoulders. Ruth gasped, surprised by the weight and warmth. "Baby, you'll be cold." Nia shrugged. "My sweater is warm. You need it more?" Andre ended the call and rested a hand on Nia's shoulder, proud but quiet. Ruth held the coat close, eyes shining now. Not with helplessness, but with something like relief. 15 minutes later, a plain outreach van pulled up. 2 workers stepped out, calm and kind, speaking to Ruth like she mattered. They offered her a hot drink, a blanket, and a spot that had opened in temporary housing because someone didn't show up. It wasn't a perfect answer, but it was an art. Answer. Ruth stood slowly, knees stiff from the cold ground. She looked down at Nia, her voice trembling. "No one has touched me kindly in a long time. I forgot what it felt like." Nia tilted her head, puzzled in the pure way. Kids are puzzled by wrong things. People are supposed to be kind. Ruth's face cracked into a small laugh that turned into tears. "Yes," she said. "They are." The bus arrived. Right then, doors opened, commuters filed in. Andre guided Nia toward the steps. Nia looked back once more. Ruth was climbing into the van, blanket around her, Nia's coat on her shoulders, eyes still fixed on the child who reminded her she wasn't invisible. Ruth lifted a hand in a small wave. Nia waved back, the kind of wave that says, "I see you. I'm not forgetting you." On the ride home, Nia leaned against Andre's arm and asked if she did the right thing. Andre looked out at the city sliding past the windows, at how fast people moved and how easy it was to miss someone hurting. He kissed the top of Nia's head. "You did the brave thing." Brave things are almost always the right thing. That night, Ruth slept in a clean bed under a warm blanket. She ate a full meal. She spoke to a counselor who treated her like a person with a future, not a problem with the past. The yellow coat folded on a chair beside her felt like proof that the world still had soft places in it tanned somewhere across town. Anna fell asleep thinking about how one hug can change a day, maybe even a life. Sometimes adults build walls out of hurry and fear. Sometimes a child walks right through those walls with a simple truth. No one is too small to give kindness. No one is too forgotten to deserve it. If this story touched you, comment where you're watching from and the moment that stayed with you most. Subscribe for more cinematic, emotional stories about quiet courage, gentle hearts, and the hope that returns when you least expect it.